Alright, welcome back to the channel, y'all. If you've never been here before, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button so you are notified every time a new video goes up on this channel. Listen, let's get right into the story. A former Amazon employee has been sentenced to 16 years behind bars for stealing Amazon's money. We're going to talk about how she did this elaborate scheme, but I figured Amazon is worth $1.5 billion or somewhere around there. And I think this lady said, you know what? They won't miss 10 million. It's 1.5 billion. Well, $1.5 billion got her 16 years in prison. 16. I know there are a lot of people who are going to say she's not going to do the whole 16. She'll probably do 8 to 10. Nope. She's going to do the whole 16. Let's get into how it happened. And I'm taking this information from a government site. U.S. Attorney's Office, Northern District of Georgia. Atlanta. Kerika. I want y'all to listen to the names so you'll get the story. Kerika Wortham. Kerika Wortham has been sentenced for stealing more than $9.4 million from Amazon.com while employed as a manager of the company. 7 individuals, including Wortham, have now been charged in connection with the scheme. Kerika Wortham was the mastermind behind the scheme, and she got everybody together. She assembled a team, and her team generated $10 million in less than 2 years. You know, they say a lot of people that are in prison, especially federal prisons, those people could very well have been CEOs of Fortune 500 companies had they applied their skills and their skill sets to the proper environment. Well, Kerika is about to find out. The defendant abused her position of trust at Amazon to steal nearly $10 million from the company based on a brazen fraud scheme involving fake vendors and fictitious invoices. That means she was making up people that were buying from and people that were supplying to, and the invoices were all fake as well. This was said by U.S. Attorney Ryan K. Buchanan. She then committed new crimes. After she got caught, she was placed on bond. She wasn't even in prison. She was put on bond. But while she was out on bond, even creating a fake dismissal document purporting to be from the court that included the forged signature of the chief U.S. District Judge. Now, you got to be really brave to forge the signature of the chief U.S. District Judge on court documents, all for the purpose of misleading a franchise company about the status of her criminal charges. What had happened was she and a group of friends decided they were going to invest their money, their stolen money, and they were going to open a business. One of the businesses they were trying to open was a hookah lounge in Atlanta. However, the paperwork, the documents required a criminal history check. And of course, they would not have done business with her had she have a criminal history check. Mind you, she is out on bond. So she forged signature of the chief U.S. District Judge to court papers that she made up that said that her case that got her on bond was completely dismissed and her record was wiped clean and she has no criminal involvement on her record at all. All for the purpose of misleading a franchise company about the status of her criminal charges. Her prison sentence recognizes the magnitude of her fraud and serves to protect the integrity of our courts and justice system, is what they said. Yeah, they're sending her up the river, all right. The Secret Service takes case of fraud extremely serious. I'll say this. If you have the Secret Service on you, you're in trouble. Special Agent in charge of the U.S. Secret Service Atlanta's field office, Stephen R. Basile, said, "This is not a joke. We take this very seriously. This individual stole millions from a business that employed her, Amazon, that is, exploiting not only their trust, but our nation's financial systems. Thanks to the hard work of our partners in the U.S. Attorney's Office, her sentence of 16 years reflects the seriousness of her crimes and sends a message that this kind of fraudulent activity will not be tolerated." According to U.S. Attorney Buchanan, the charges and other information presented in court, Kyrika Wortham abused her position at Amazon to submit more than $10 million in fictitious invoices for fake vendors, according to them, causing Amazon to pay approximately $9.4 million to Wortham and to her co-conspirators. I know she was happy when them checks were rolling in. $9.4 million. She was balling. From about August 20th to March of 2022, Wortham worked as a operations manager at the Amazon warehouse in Smyrna, Georgia. In her position, Wortham supervised others, and she acted with authority to approve both new vendors and the payment of vendor invoices for Amazon. Now, this is a very high trusted position. As you can see, she abused that trust and used it for her own good. They let the fox in the hen house, and she went wild. Wortham, who was the leader of the scheme, she provided fake vendor information to unknowing subordinates and asked them to input the information into Amazon's vendor system. These subordinates, mind you, she is the supervisor. So if your supervisor gives you a list of vendor information to put into the system, and it is your job to follow your supervisor's instructions and put these vendors' information into the system, you don't question your supervisor. You take the list and you put it into the system. What her subordinates did not know was that these vendor informations were fake. Once the information was entered into the system, Wortham would then go and approve the fake vendors, enabling those fake vendors to submit invoices. She was the fake vendor. Wortham and co-conspirators then submitted fictitious invoices back to Amazon, falsely representing that the vendors had provided goods and services to Amazon. So if we provide goods and services, we must pay for those goods and services. Wortham approved the invoices, causing Amazon to transfer millions of dollars in fraudulent proceeds to bank accounts that were controlled by her and her co-conspirators. Wortham conspired with others, including Brittany Hudson, in the scheme. Hudson was in a relationship with Wortham and owned a business. The name of the business was Legend Express LLC. That business contracted with Amazon to deliver packages to customers. Hudson allegedly worked with Wortham to submit millions of dollars in fictitious invoices for fake vendors to Amazon. Wortham and Hudson purchased expensive real estate. They purchased luxury cars, including a nearly $1 million home in Smyrna, Georgia in 2019. They purchased a 2019 Lamborghini Urus in 2019, a 2021 Dodge Durango, a 2022 Tesla Model X, a 2018 Porsche Panamera, a Kawasaki ZX636 motorcycle, all with fraudulent proceeds from the Amazon scheme. I gotta laugh because one of the first things I see people do when they're doing fraud, well, let's be real about it, right? One of the first things I see black folks do when they're committing fraud, they normally start flossing and shining for everybody to see and flexing. What are you doing with all of that? You know, $1 million home in Smyrna, Georgia, that's a hell of a piece of real estate. This ain't like up north. You in Brooklyn, New York, a brownstone in the middle of a block where gunshots are fired on a regular basis is worth about $1 million. If you move south and you hit Smyrna, Georgia, and you got $1 million to splash on a home, you're in a mansion. They had the right idea but the wrong plan. Lamborghini, you are a Amazon employee. A Lamborghini in the year of which you were? A Lamborghini Urus at that. A Dodge Durango 2021. A Tesla 2022. A Porsche Panamera. All this would have law enforcement and your neighbors looking at you with the stinky eye, which in this case is what probably happened. Now, Wortham, she also recruited co-conspirator Demetrius Hines, who was in loss prevention. Now, you're going to need somebody in loss prevention, so she assembled an effective team. So Demetrius Hines, who was in loss prevention at Amazon, and Laquitia Blanchard, who worked as a senior human resources assistant at the company. Hines and Blanchard provided names and social security numbers to Wortham to create additional fake vendor accounts. Blanchard provided names of relatives and associates. Hines provided stolen personal information that he purchased from another person called Jaquan Frazier, who in turn allegedly purchased the information from Daryl J. Burgo, also known as Fleet. Hines and Blanchard were paid in fraudulent proceeds. Hines also recruited Jamar L. James Sr., another operations manager at Amazon's location in Duluth, Georgia, into the scheme. Like Wortham, James allegedly approved fake vendors and fictitious invoices, including after Wortham left Amazon in March of 2022. He was still there, still doing it. While on bond, Wortham and Hudson, they committed new criminal conducts that resulted in the revocation of their bond. In January of 2023, they were working with CRU Franchising Company to open a hookah lounge in Midtown Atlanta. During the due diligence to close the deal, CRU discovered and asked about the Amazon fraud charges that were laid against them. In response, Wortham and Hudson allegedly lied to CRU, claiming that their Amazon-related criminal charges were dismissed. The two then emailed fraudulent court documents to CRU that purported to show dismissal of the charges and contained forged signatures of the Chief U.S. District Judge Timothy C. Batten Sr. and forged seals and signatures of the clerk of the court. Hudson also allegedly emailed CRU doctored bank statements and personal financial statements that fraudulently inflated the balances in their accounts to support the franchise deal. Caretha Wortham, also known as Carika Dupree, and Carika Young, 32 years old, of Atlanta, Georgia, was sentenced by Chief U.S. District Judge Timothy C. Batten Sr. to 16 years in prison, to be followed by 3 years of supervised release and ordered to pay restitution to Amazon in the amount of $9,469,731.45. More than $2.7 million in fraudulent proceeds were seized from multiple bank accounts. The residence in Smyrna, the vehicles that they purchased with fraudulent proceeds, they were all forfeited. They lost everything. Wortham was convicted of the Amazon fraud charges on November 30th of 2022. She pled guilty. She has been indicted for defrauding CRU and forging the signature of a federal judge and the seal of the court. Those charges remain pending. On June 20th of 2023, a federal judge indicted Brittany Hudson, 37 years old, of Atlanta, Georgia, and Lamar L. James Sr., 47 years old, of Calera, Alabama, for conspiracy, wire fraud, money laundering, and Hudson for forging the signature of a federal judge and seal of the court. Darrell J. Burgo, 32 years old, of Lawrenceville, Georgia, was charged in the same indictment with conspiracy, access device fraud, and aggravated identity theft. These charges are pending for their role in the scheme. On November 30th, 2022, Demetrius Hines pled guilty to wire fraud conspiracy. On June 27th of 2023, Laquitia Blanchard pled guilty to wire fraud conspiracy, and on June 27th of 2023, Jaquan Frazier pled guilty to misprision of a felony. Misprision of a felony basically means you knew that there was a crime taking place. You had intricate details to the crime taking place, but you did not alert the law. You did not raise an alarm. You were in some way complicit. Judge Batten will sentence the rest of these 3 defendants later on this year. This case was being investigated by the U.S. Secret Service. Assistant Attorney Stephen H. McLean and Norman L. Barnett are prosecuting this case. And this information was actually taken directly from a www.justice.gov court site, U.S. Attorney's Office, Northern District of Georgia. Listen, that was a whole lot of money. $10 million in less than 2 years. Oh man, there are a lot of people out here that will work the rest of their lives and they will not see $10 million. They were able to see $10 million. They were able to make expensive purchases, live the high life, $1 million home, Lamborghinis, nice car, Porsche Panameras, motorcycles, all that stuff. But was it worth it? Was it worth all that stuff being taken away and 16 years in a penitentiary? I think not. Leave your comments in the comments section below. And the next time, if you're thinking about doing this, or you're doing this right now, you better stop. I'll catch you on the next video. I'm out. Hit that subscribe button. Peace.